Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Water Utility Authority Board. I call this May 20th, 2026 meeting of the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority to order. All members are present, save Dr. Single is excused. Second, the invocation and Pledge of Allegiance. We'll have a moment of silence first, and then I will lead the pledge. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Item 3, approval of the minutes. I move approval of the April 22nd, 2026 minutes. Do I have a second? Second. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Passes. Thank you. And we have no proclamations nor awards. So we will move on to public comment. Ms. Salas, do we have anyone to speak?
Madam Chair, we have one online, Elaine Hebert, and I will bring her on.
Great. And you will have 3 minutes to speak with a warning at 2.5 minutes.
Ms. Hebert.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
My name is Elaine Hebert, a longtime board commentator. Today I would like to talk about 2 issues. One is the budget backlog. We learned last month that there's a backlog of unmet infrastructure needs of $178 million with a gap of $100 million to address them. It reminds me of the April 20th, 2011 meeting where Mr. Sanchez said, we need to figure out a way, this is in quotes, to finance the asset management plan and to carry it out. Otherwise, in 20 or 30 years, we risk the complete system failures, literally, in everything we do, end quote. So a plan was created to reduce the backlog, which was about $300 million, by now. And instead, we have an even bigger backlog. How did it happen? I'm sure just little bits by here and there, but keeping rates low has provided less revenue for needed upkeep. The backlog used to be reported in the financial reports, and I would suggest that it be done again, so it's no longer a surprise. Perhaps the board could get involved a little earlier in the budget roadmap process, which is outlined in the budget document in front of you. I would suggest perhaps in December with the financial plan development of base budget and budget manual. City Council has staff to help the council go through the budget, and maybe having somebody outside this process would again help. And finally, the community conversations, which are a way to educate the public about what is happening with the utility, should be used this year to address that budget deficit. Because if we're going to see $8 on every month's budget bill, we're going to notice that, and you're going to hear about it. So I would suggest that that be the topic. And finally, I want to just say thank you to the state engineer and to the Interstate Stream Commission Commissioner Director for showing up today and talking about water compact, because we added to it this past year and we need to reduce it. That should be the main goal of the new water plan, which has to also address aridification. I've got a lot of suggestions that I put into my paper comments, and I would hope that they would be included in the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hebert.
Madam Chair, that was our only public comment for today.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Salas. Move on to item 6, announcements and communication. Our next scheduled meeting will be August 19th, 2026, here in these chambers. And item 7, introduction of legislation. A is R 2618, authorizing the issuance of the sales of Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority Senior Lien Joint Water and Sewer Refunding Revenue Bonds, Series 2026, to refinance and replace existing debt tied to the water Authority's water and sewer system. I'm proposing, I need a motion and a second to vote to suspend the rules and consider the item for immediate action tonight. Do I have?
Madam
Yes.
Chair. I'll make a motion to suspend the rules to allow immediate action on, I believe, item A, R2618.
Thank you. Moved in,
Second.
moved and seconded by Commissioner Baca. This resolution will be presented under approvals. Item B is R 2619.
Madam
authorize-
Chair, I'm sorry to
I'm
interrupt.
sorry. I'll
I'm sorry.
apologize. I'm trying-
Madam Chair, sorry. We'll have to vote also to move the item to approvals, please.
Yes, to suspend the rules. So that's been moved and seconded, and so we need a vote. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you for catching me. Appreciate it. Item B, R 2619, authorizing the Albuquerque-Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority to accept grant award agreement CG02F 89701-0 with the United States EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, for aquifer storage and recovery project. I need a motion and a second with the vote to suspend the rules, to consider this for immediate action tonight.
Motion for immediate action to suspend the rules.
It's been moved, and I will second that. This resolution will be presented under approvals as well. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Appreciate that. We move on to the consent agenda. I make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor? Aye?
Yes.
Thank you. And we will move on to item 9 on the agenda, approvals. Item 9A is R 2614, appropriating funds for the operating and capital improvement program budget for ABCWA. Susan Lander. Thank you, Ms. Lander.
Good evening, Madam Chair and members of the board. I'm here to present for your approval the FY27 operating and CIP budgets, the performance plan, and the 2027 to 2036 decade plan. For a quick summary, on the operating budget side, the 2027 budget is balanced with revenues equaling expenditures, and the total amount is for each $285.7 million. There is no rate or fee adjustment proposed for FY27, and this budget amount includes a 3% cost of living adjustment for the employees. Along the same lines, the fringe benefits remain at 80% employer paid. There is an increase in the health insurance premium of 7.5%, and we've added a dental plan that will have an increased premium of 10%. Also in the budget, there's an increase in the transfer to the CIP program from the operating fund. And this budget proposes new full-time equivalent units, which are full-time employees, and operating expenses in the amount of $3.8 million. There's an additional $2 million budgeted to transfer to the debt service fund to pay off some of our smaller loans early. So that helps free up our ability to borrow more if we need to. On the revenue side, you can see the total operating revenues. The majority of our revenues are for water and wastewater charges, and then we have various other miscellaneous revenues that come in. A little bit more detail on the operating budget on the expense side. You can see the breakout through all the different divisions at the Water Authority, and the majority of the expenses, as you can see, are in the transfers. And this is a transfer from the operating budget to the various other funds. So we have the transfer to the CIP funds of $40.9 million, which is a $12 million increase over FY26. And then there's a transfer to the debt service fund of about $82.3 million, which is about an increase of about $4 million from FY26. And for the debt service fund, on this graph, you can see the debt payments by fiscal year. For FY27, our principal and interest payments will be $86.2 million. And then, as I said previously, we're going to pay off some of our smaller loans, and we've budgeted about $2 million for that. For FY27, our outstanding principal will be $517.9 million, and that's a decrease of almost $68 million from FY26. And so this decrease in outstanding principal helps free up some capacity for future capital projects. Now moving over to the CIP budget. And for FY27, the CIP budget is $92.01 million. And this will help us address the priorities of asset rehab and system reliability, critical system replacements, and then regulatory compliance and long-term sustainability. Some of the projects that will be funded by this money will be, there's various water line rehabs. We've got reservoir and well rehabs. On the collection side, we've got interceptor, force main improvements, vacuum station upgrades. In water resources, we have new aquifer storage and recovery programs, and we have the conservation rebates and some pilot programs for conservation. Some various other projects that will be funded are replacement of vehicles and heavy equipment. We've got some major IT upgrades that we have planned. And then another big project is moving the IT data center from City Hall to the water treatment plant. Next, for our decade plan, which is the long-term plan for capital projects. This plan, like I said, is a long-term plan for repairing, replacing, and upgrading water and wastewater infrastructure. The plan is based on risk, condition, and system needs, and we try to balance what the system needs with our current rate structure. The funding for these projects is a mix of cash and borrowing. And every year this is updated, and the plan adjusts pretty much constantly based on conditions, costs, and sometimes priorities change. It also looks at the noticeable needs versus funding, which is the gap that we have discussed. And each year of the deferrals compounds the future financial and operating pressures. Some of the key takeaways for the decade plan, as we had discussed at last month's meeting, we have the structural CIP gap. And basically our rehabilitation needs have consistently exceeded the available funding. Rehab is structural and ongoing, and it's not caused by one-time factors. So funding increases help, but will never fully close the gap, because as we start closing the gap on one area, other areas become older and start having issues, so then we have to start moving funding to other areas. So it will be a continuous thing, but we do need to close the gap so it's more manageable. We are going to be looking at some long-term solutions, and some of those we're already currently doing. A careful prioritization of our rehab projects. We're looking at making sustained investment and continuing the discussion of various funding strategies. We'll also be talking in the upcoming months about some possible other strategies, such as maybe a capital investment fee and possible rate revenue adjustments. We're also looking at some other ideas, such as updating some of our policies, considering Our debt-to-cash mix for CIP, we could adjust that to possibly give us more debt capacity. And also, we could possibly extend our debt repayment period from 12 years to 15 years, which would lower the yearly payments, which would up our capacity also. A lot of these items, like I said, we'll be discussing in the coming months, and we'll be looking for your input, citizens' input. We'll probably be going to the TCAC, and then we're looking at doing an education outreach to our ratepayers. So this isn't going to be a surprise for people when we finally come up with a plan. And that is all I have, and I stand here for any questions, comments, concerns.
Any questions for Ms. Lander? Okay, I move approval.
Okay.
Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Thank you, Ms. Lander. Item 9B, 026-1, amending the Water Authority sewer rate ordinance, reconfiguration of the ordinance structure and credit card convenience fees. We have Ms. Mendez.
Good evening, Madam Chair and respected members of the board. My name is Henrietta Mendez. I'm the Customer Service Division Manager for the Water Authority. Tonight, I'm here to present 026-1 for your approval. This amendment modernizes the water and sewer rate ordinance, improves the overall structure of the rate provisions, and adds a credit card fee, convenience fee for customers who choose to pay by card. This action focuses on two main outcomes. First, it improves and updates the ordinance so it is clear and easy to maintain. Second, it establishes a credit card convenience fee aligned with cost of service. So let me start with the ordinance improvements. This update makes the ordinance clearer and easier to use. Sections now follow consistent topics and headings. Policies are separated from rules to improve the transparency. The rules are remaining in the ordinance, and the policies will be moving to administrative instructions. This supports regular updates while maintaining stability. To illustrate, the next slides compare current and updated rate tables. In the current format, you see charges are not clearly distinguished, and the surcharge rates are difficult to identify in the large block text. In the updated version, we've changed it to make it more clear. It's presented where people can understand it, internally and externally for our customers, and rates are easier to locate and understand. The final item is the proposed credit card fee. The Water Authority currently absorbs about $1.6 million annually in processing costs. The proposed fee is revenue neutral and simply covers the vendor's charge. The Water Authority does not earn any revenue from it. Customers can avoid the fee by choosing several different options that we offer, whether it's through ACH, automatic bill pay, mailing their payment, or in-person other payment options that we offer for them. The fee structure is based on customer type. Residential would be a $1.95 flat fee per transaction. Non-residential would be 2.95% of the total transaction. The Water Authority may adjust the fee as needed to reflect the actual vendor processing costs, and the ordinance would be updated accordingly. To close, even with these updates, the Water Authority remains one of the most affordable utilities in the region while supporting long-term reliability. And I stand for any questions, and thank you for your time.
Any questions? Councilor Lewis?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So potentially this could be an increase to a rate, but we just to assume that there are a good amount of folks, I'm sure, that pay automatically or pay for their card automatically. I mean, how are we communicating to those folks that might, again, just have it set up and they're just making that payment and they may not be aware that?
Right, so we'll be doing campaigns, Councilor Lewis and members of the board, we'll be doing campaigns as far as the options. We do have the other options as far as that they can do electronic checks. There's no charge for that, so if they want to change over to that, but we'll be doing communication well ahead of before the change happens.
And then, I mean, it makes sense. I mean, if this potentially is probably going to change behavior of how someone pays, probably more than anything. But if the behavior changed, they pay a different way, then it's a reduced expense to the water authority as well. So, so I can see how that'd be a wash, but it would be a change initially. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Any other questions? Councilor Shambo?
Madam Chair, I just, a clarification, it says it's $1.95 per credit card transaction, it's not a percentage?
For residential, yes, correct, Counselor Champagne,
Okay.
yes.
How did that, I'm familiar with the credit card merchant system, and the ones that I know charge a percentage of the total bill,
Correct.
usually. How does it work out that it's just a fee, a set fee?
Okay, so for us, for the water utility, we have different customer types that our system can tell if it's residential versus any other type of class. So all residential would be charged only the 1.95 per transaction versus the rest of them will be charged the 2.95% for the total cost for the total transaction.
Okay, I understand that part, but how is it that you worked out that it's not a percentage of the bill? Like, if you go to a restaurant right now, they charge you the credit card fee. It's usually 2.5% of the total amount being charged.
Right.
You're not charging a percentage, you're charging a flat fee.
So our vendor, great question. So our vendor, Paymentus, we gave them the statistics of as far as, what our average customer bill is, the total amount over a year's time, 1 to 2 years' time, and they were able to come up with the cost would be as far as for an average bill or for an average non-residential customer, and to keep the cost as low as possible.
Perfect. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Councilor Western. Any other questions? I move approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Discussion? Councilor Lewis?
Madam Chair, in this bill, and maybe the director could answer this, there's a certain amount of, the language just says that there's authority given to the, authority that's transferred from the board to, can you define that a little bit more? I mean, how much authority is this board? And how would you define that, the authority that this board would be given away along with this bill?
As far as, I'm sorry.
Madam Chair, Councilor Lewis, there were some like financial policies, debt policies that were embedded in an ordinance. And working with our financial advisor and consultant, they suggested those be removed, but any changes the board would have to approve. So we're not removing any authority, just where they're placed.
Okay. Just wanted to define that here again, as I was reading that a moment ago, or earlier.
Carol online?
Yes.
Our rate consultant's online and she can address that further.
So, I mean, this bill does define somewhat of a change to the authority that the board has, and this bill does change it. I guess how would you, and I think you've got it there, but how would you answer that in a way of you have some authority now, you're not going to have authority in this regard after this bill is passed?
Madam Chair, Councilor Lewis, I think the authority remains with the board. Those parts of it are not embedded in an ordinance. We're trying to simplify an ordinance that was overly complicated.
Okay. So it's more of just a clarifying of defining what the authority the board already has and the types of decisions that the administration could make.
Correct, but any changes to those that we're moving, the board would have to approve. I could not do that unilaterally.
I got you. Thank you.
Any other questions? So we have a motion on the table. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Great, that passes. Thank you, Ms. Mendez. We're on to 9C R 26-15, authorizing the executive director to enter into agreement with Santa Fe County to store water in Abiquiu Reservoir. Ms. Agnew.
Hello, Madam Chair, members of the board. This item is to approve 2 storage agreements with Santa Fe County at Abiquiu Reservoir. One of them is for them to store their San Juan Chama or Rio Grande system water in their contracted space with the Army Corps, but on Water Authority storage easement. And the second is to allow them to store their San Juan Chama project water, Rio Grande system water in our contracted storage space. And this agreement is consistent with other previously approved agreements, and it is consistent with nearly 20 years of precedent. I'll stand for any questions.
Any question for Ms. Agnew? I move approval. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. Further discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Agnew. Item 9D, R26-16, authorizing and approving submission of an application for financial assistance to NMFA and making certain findings in connection with therewith. Mr. Harrigan.
Good afternoon, Madam Chairs, members of the board. Eric Harrigan with RBC Capital Markets. We're your municipal advisor. I can give you the presentation now or wait for the ordinance, but what is before you right now is submitting an application to the New Mexico Finance Authority for the purpose of refinancing existing water authority debt for interest rate savings. I'll go ahead and go through the presentation. This will cover the next agenda item as well, and I'll also stand for questions. But we periodically look at your debt for any potential interest rate savings. In this particular case, oftentimes we'll do that when you issue new money bonds, but your next scheduled sale for bonds is not until next year. But given where interest rates are currently, your 2018 bonds become optionally callable July of this year, and based upon where current interest rates are, the authority could refund those bonds for interest rate savings. So based upon current market, we anticipate the savings by refunding these bonds will be about $1.5 million on a present value basis. This is net of all costs for the authority, and it'll be about $300,000 to $400,000 in annual debt service savings to the authority. The New Mexico Finance Authority, we would place this through the New Mexico Finance Authority, and due to the size of this transaction, this has to be done as what's called a simultaneous. When the New Mexico Finance Authority goes out to the market and sells bonds, the interest rates that they achieve gets passed directly on to the Water Utility Authority, and those rates are then used to fund the loan. In this particular case, because this is a refunding, as we get closer to the time when the New Mexico Finance Authority is looking to sell bonds, if interest rates go up dramatically and savings drop below 3% on a net present value basis, we would simply not execute the refunding. There would be no bonds sold, and you would just, and the 2018 bonds would just continue to be outstanding as they are. The next simultaneous financing from the NMFA is expected in late August, and so therefore we needed the approvals before June to get onto their simultaneous financing schedule. So from a timing perspective, subject to approval by the board this evening, this would go to the New Mexico Finance Authority Board for their approval at their June meeting. And then in July, the NMFA would approve the actual simultaneous financing, sell bonds in August, and then we would close in September. We do have a couple of slides on the market, and I'll just kind of, talk, pretty high level here. At the beginning of the year, and for several months, we saw fairly consistent decline in interest rates, but because of the conflict in Iran and the potential impact to the price of oil and that impact on inflationary pressure, if you will, we've seen a relatively decent spike in interest rates over the last couple of months. Things have started to level out a little bit. As I mentioned early in the last slide, These rates are based upon current interest rates, so it's taken into account some of that increase in interest rates. But again, if rates were to continue to go up and we just can't achieve the desired savings, we're not going to execute the refinancing. So with that, I'll just kind of quickly highlight the resolution before you. So the New Mexico Finance Authority requires that an application and a resolution be submitted to them, knowing that the board is asking the New Mexico Finance Authority to approve the refunding, and this is the step that needs to take place to get that application on the NMFA agenda. And with that, I would be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions? Do I have a motion for approval?
So moved.
Been moved and seconded. No further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Thank you. Mr. Harrigan, we move on to your next item, R26-18, authorizing the issuance and sale of Albuquerque-Burnett County Water Utility Authority senior lien joint water and sewer refunding revenue bonds to refinance or replace existing debt tied to the water authority's sewer system. Mr. Harrigan.
Yes, so Madam Chair, members, so this ordinance authorizes the issuance of refunding bonds to refund the 2018 bonds. The ordinance is constructed in a manner consistent with prior debt ordinances that the authority has approved in the past. The main things that I just wanted to point out that the maximum par is 33.12 million. The final maturity 2031. The refunding will not extend the final maturity of the original issuance of the 2018 bonds. And the minimum savings is 3%. Approval of this ordinance does delegate to the executive director to approve and sign the pricing certificate, meaning that these parameters have been met. And really the most important component of this is that the minimum savings threshold has been met to execute the pricing certificate. And with that, I would be happy to answer any questions. Sam Gill with the McCall Law Firm, who is your bond counsel, I think he might be online if there are any additional questions.
Thank you, Mr. Harrigan. Any questions for Mr. Harrigan or the bond counsel? I have a motion for approval.
So moved.
A second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
We're on to our final approval, R26-19, authorizing ABCWA to accept grant award agreement with the United States Environment Protection Agency. Luz Carrillo.
Madam Chair, members of the board, this resolution authorizes the Water Authority to enter into an agreement with the United States Environmental Protection Agency to receive funding in the amount of $512,320 for the Arroyo del Oso Aquifer Storage and Recovery project. The funds will be used for plan and design along with permitting. There is a local match of $239,000, which has already been budgeted in Water 2120. I stand for any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Commissioner Rivas.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You know, I've raised this issue before on aquifer storage, and I'm just, you know, I'm a little bit skeptical of the project just because of the availability of San Juan Chama water, and as we're seeing, you know, we're unable to access that now for a larger portion of the year because of flow conditions on the river. It's happened 2 years in a row now. Suspect it'll be more frequent going forward. And our project allocation has been reduced last year, and you know, suspecting maybe even more so this year. So, you know, just wondering what the, you know, I realized that 20 years ago, looking at this and looking at the allocations of San Juan Chama water and what we could realistically use, aquifer storage made a lot of sense. And I just wonder if we've reevaluated that from sort of a cost-benefit perspective, the cost of building this infrastructure and, you know, how much of it we'll realistically be able to use, not necessarily now, but in the future, because, you know, these are hopefully going to last 20, 30, 40, 50 years. Thank you.
Madam Chair, Commissioner Olivas, the intent with ASR all along was to build out capacity so that we could recharge San Juan Chama water during winter months when we can access our San Juan Chama water. And that way then we could recover it during these drier peak periods of time. So rather than doing entirely groundwater supply, we could be recovering our ASR water to meet demand in the summer. So this project will get us significantly further along in that regard, that rather than only having one well, for example, to recharge into, we'll have 3, which means that we can put more San Juan Chama water here locally. That also has an increased advantage that sometimes we can't get to that San Juan Chama water supply simply because of a sediment plug in Rio Chama, for example. So the more we have here locally, the more flexibility we have in our operations, and the more that we can use that San Juan Chama water strategically, rather than waiting for it to come down from Abiquiu. And while we are getting short, like a shorter supply every year for San Juan Chama, we have a little more than 3 years of our total demand and storage currently. And so it is strategic to have it here in the ground in Albuquerque where we can pull it where we need it and buffer for those the drier years.
If I may, a follow-up, Madam Chair, just wondering, that water, this may be a stupid question, but that water isn't segregated in any way from groundwater. So like when we say that we're 100% groundwater pumping right now, in theory, some of that groundwater is San Juan Chama water. Is that kind of what you're saying?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Olivas, currently all of the groundwater is truly groundwater, none of the San Juan Chama water we put into the ground. We have specific recovery points for that water. So if we were going to use San Juan Chama water stored through ASR, we would pull it from a very specific point in the ground to do that. And we do quite a bit of modeling to demonstrate that, to be compliant with our permit with the state engineer. So they actually require that as well. That if we're recovering water from ASR, we know we've modeled it's San Juan Chama water and not the groundwater that we're pulling elsewhere.
And what's the criteria for pulling that? When or if you would?
Madam Chair, Commissioner Olivas, it's an operational decision. It's also having enough water in the ground to make it worthwhile. So that's where these other 2 wells will be advantageous, that we can have a really nice bank account in the local aquifer to pull from to really offset that peak demand versus to be honest, we are making limited progress because we only have 1 well. We can only put so much water in that well during the winter. 3 will get us so much further to that goal where it'll be meaningful in the summer.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Any other questions? Okay, I move approval. Do I have a second? It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Thank you. We'll move on to item 10, other business, and we're all looking forward to the state engineer. They are running a little bit late, so we're going to move on to 10B, OB 2610, the Consumer Confidence Report. Danielle Shuri.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Danielle Shurin. I'm the Compliance Division Manager at the Water Authority, and I'm presenting tonight on the Drinking Water Consumer Confidence Report for 2025. The Compliance Division manages water quality reporting for drinking and wastewater plants, and the Drinking Water Quality Program in particular manages this report, regulatory monitoring requirements, reporting, regulatory inspections, all of our customer interactions on water quality, and public education as well. So the Consumer Confidence Report is an EPA term for what we call our annual water quality report. The intent of this report is to build consumer confidence in our water supply. So it's transparent reporting of the data that we have collected the year before. And this year we're distributing the report. It's posted on our website right now in English and Spanish. It'll go out in June by email, billing insert, and mailed copies to all of our customers. The primary purpose of this report is outreach and education. And so there's a lot of required information by EPA in this report. And primarily for outreach and in education. They want to have our customers be able to reach us, so contact information, how they can report any concerns to us, how they can get involved in more depth, so attending meetings like this, participating in our lead survey, protecting our water resources, and then also standard definitions, so we have clear explanations of the technical terms that are used throughout the report to talk about compliance. Second component of the report is understanding our water supply. So where our water comes from in our service area, we have groundwater and surface water, as we just heard about. The surface water treatment process that's required to provide safe drinking water, and then the required monitoring and testing that we do throughout the year. And we'll get more into those details here in a little bit. An important part of this report for us is that we like to celebrate our teams who ensure our safe and reliable drinking water, and in our wastewater plant too that produces great water. So we have a number of awards that we work towards each year from AWWA and the National Association of Clean Water Agencies. And so we like to celebrate those in this report as well. The main content of the report is the laboratory results. So the primary table we'll look at is the detected substances during compliance monitoring and where those sources are. Another table is the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule, and we'll go through those results. This is the 5th round of that rule, and this round we are looking at lithium and PFAS compounds. And then there's a section on what EPA says. So this is kind of standard language on drinking water contaminants, whether they're man-made or natural, and how they come to be. I should say PFAS is perfluoroalkyl substances. It's an acronym that we use commonly, but it's a very long chemical name, so that's why we use that PFAS word. Definitions and units of measure are very important for this report. As I mentioned, there's technical terms related to compliance with national drinking water standards. So we like to make sure that everybody understands the EPA definition, and we're all talking about vocabulary in the same way. Units of measures are really important because they're very small units that we're looking at. So for example, parts per million can be represented by 1 drop from an eyedropper in 10 gallons of water, about the size of an aquarium. A part per billion is 1 drop from an eyedropper in a small 10,000 gallon swimming pool. And then a part per trillion is 1 drop in 10 million gallons, or 1,000 of those small swimming pools. Okay, the main table of the report is our system-wide detections for compliance monitoring. These samples are actually collected by the New Mexico Environment Department at our entry points. So entry points to distribution are after all of our treatment, but before the first customer. So it best represents what quality of water our customers are receiving. I'm going to go across the top and talk about the headings and describe what this table is explaining. So first column obviously is the substance that we're describing. The second column is the source, which refers to how does this substance get in our water supply. And that kind of gets back to the natural versus man-made sorts of substances. Detection limits are the lowest concentration that can be measured with confidence that is greater than 0. So for drinking water, these detection limits are actually set by EPA in the regulations. The minimum detected is the lowest level found in the system. The maximum detected is the largest concentration found in our sampling results. The maximum contaminant level is the federal water quality standard, and the maximum contaminant level goal is not an enforceable public health goal, but it is the ideal and safest level of the contaminant where there's no risk to health at all. And we also have the check marks on the side. This is a, oops, can you see that? This is a visual representation that all of our detections do meet federal water quality standards and are considered safe to drink. the unregulated contaminant monitoring rule. So this is the rule that looked at PFAS compounds, various PFAS compounds, and lithium. And this rule is to help EPA decide what to regulate in the future. So it's just a survey or assessment of new contaminants and how they impact utilities nationwide. And so they collect this data and assess impacts and costs and then decide what contaminants will be regulated in the future. So the great news was that we did not have any PFAS detections in our drinking water sources. So we were really happy to find that. There's recently been some changes at EPA, a proposed rule revision that will limit the regulated PFAS in the future just to PFOA and PFOS. So we're still kind of following how those rules are changing and will be implemented for us, but based on our results, we don't anticipate any issues. In the next round, UCMR 6, the 6th round of this rule will start in 2027. So we'll get some new analytes to look at and see how they're impacting us. Another aspect of the report is lead monitoring and service line inventory. This rule was recently revised and had increased requirements for lead testing and conducting a service line inventory to identify any lead pipes in our system. We also offer free lead testing to any of our customers that request it. And we have a campaign right now to do, that's part of the requirements of the rule as well, to do lead testing in all of the schools and childcare centers throughout the service area. So we're working through all those requirements. Here in the report, we post the results of our voluntary customer lead testing. So that's when a customer called us and asked for a lead test because they had some concerns. You can look at our inventory results online. I have a detail of that on the next page. So online we have the results of our service line inventory. Last year we were approved by the New Mexico Environment Department on some predictive modeling that we did, so we don't have to actually look at each meter box. We're going to still track results as we look in each meter box, but we are 95% confident that we do not have any lead service lines in our service area. We'll keep collecting data for 5 to 10 years until this rule is complete, but things are looking great. And we encourage everybody to participate. So a way that our customers can participate in this, an example is that when we started this, I had a service line leak in my house. And so they came and dug it up, and while it was dug up, I took pictures of the lines that were there. So that's a great example of how customers can participate, submit the pictures online, and we can do some material determinations that way, or verifications. Frequently asked questions. Arsenic is a natural contaminant that is in our service area. So we do have a number of treatment plants for arsenic that we monitor closely. Sodium is just a commonly asked about substance. It's also naturally in our water supply. So we do make sure that those results are available to everyone. We have even more water quality results by what we call water quality zone on our website. These will get updated to 2025 results in June as well. So when you click on one of these areas of the map, it'll bring up a report of the water quality specific to well fields that serve that area or neighborhood. And that's the end of my presentation. Can I answer any questions?
Any questions? Commissioner Baca and then Commissioner Olivas.
Oh, I just, nothing directly related to what you just said, but I read in the paper, I believe this week, that the state signed or let out a contract for a study of brackish water, a result of, I think, $50 million that was allocated this legislative session. Mm-hmm. Is that accurate? And if so, can you tell me just a little bit about where that is, the scope of that, nature of that study?
I would say that is beyond the scope of our water supply. Right. Right at this point. I think they're exploring potential options to expand water supply or water sources for potentially anyone. I'm not sure who it's targeted to at this point. I think they're just seeing if it's a viable water supply source and what it looks like to treat that, or even drill to it, because it's very deep.
Is there any indication of supply in this vicinity, in this basin?
You know, I think they're drilling a testing well as part of that project on the west side. I think they're still trying to define the exact location and what that looks like. But I did understand that there's a potential location on the west side.
Is that like near Laguna Pueblo, Ben? That area?
I'm not sure exactly.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Lewis.
Thank you, Madam Chair. When you're doing the PFAS testing specifically, does that include our surface water, San Juan Chama?
Yes. Yep. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate your report. And I think we will move on to OB 2611, the water report. Mark Kelly.
Madam Chair and members of the board, I'm excited to come to you as not the last item tonight and present the water report. When we look at our supply metrics for April, we were at about 70% groundwater, 30% surface water. This indicates, us slowing down the surface water treatment plant and eventually stopping the surface water treatment plant at the end of April. When we look at the drought severity and coverage index, it is currently at 300 for Bernalillo County, and that is our first trigger for our drought plan. And the other triggers, like groundwater pumping versus goal, and GPCD versus our goal, are under the 120% criteria for groundwater pumping, and under in terms of our GPCD goal. We are at 124 for our GPCD. So we, because the DSCI is greater than or equal to 300, we go into our drought advisory. The drought advisory is our first stage, and we have upped our advertising around drought in our messaging. In terms of temperature and precipitation, the temperatures have been pretty normal in the last month or so, and precipitation has almost to a normal level here in the Albuquerque area. When we look forward to the seasonal temperature outlook, things are likely to be warmer than normal in the next 3 months, but we have an above average chance of having a larger amount of precipitation in the next 3 months. So we're hoping for a good monsoon season. Because we are in drought advisory, we have begun our drought webinars where customers can get a $20 rebate for attending. They are online every other Friday around lunchtime. We've gotten some good, we've done 3 so far, and we've gotten some good attendance at those. The last webinar, we had 350 customers at the webinar, asking a lot of good questions and posting some positive feedback for our conservation staff. The next webinar is going to be May 29th, and then after that, it's going to be June 12th. And the May 29th one will cover irrigation fundamentals for greater water efficiency, and then the 12th will get into some tree biology. At last month's meeting, there was some questions on our Water Smart Academy that reaches out to contractors and endeavors to teach them best management practices for irrigation. And we are kind of doing a little bit of piloting some changes in the Water Smart Academy. One of the new approaches that we're utilizing is going actually to the contractors. It kind of sounds silly to like think of that there's like a new thing like go where the people are, but we used to have them come to a central location and then teach them there, and it was kind of a long and a prolonged rolled out thing. Now we're doing shorter classes in their places of work, and we're hoping that can spur a little bit more participation. We're also working on getting Spanish language sessions together. We had a teacher lined up for that, but it recently fell through. So we're looking for somebody to provide that service in the future. We're also out there amongst the public getting our conservation message out at events. We've been doing a lot of neighborhood association meetings and tabling events in the community, and we're really trying to up that this spring and into this summer. And along with all those events, we also have some new topics that we've got going for our Drought Smart webinars. So folks will be able to be exposed to many different parts of our conservation program. But I think what's interesting that we got some new topics this year on hand, like designing for dogs is a good one that I know that I have struggled in my own landscaping with myself. So we're planning on these occurring until October, and like I said earlier, they're happening every other week, and customers can get a $20 rebate for attending. That is all I have for the water report, and I'll stand for any questions.
Any questions for Mr. Kelly? Seeing none, thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your report. And we are very excited to move on and welcome down the state engineer, Liz Anderson, and Interstate Stream Commission Director Hannah Risley-White to talk about the Rio Grande Compact update. Welcome. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you for having us. It feels good to be here. I think most of you know I used to work for the Water Authority as the Chief Planning Officer, and so it's nice to be in a room full of friends and friendly faces. But we're really glad to be here tonight to talk with you about water in New Mexico and just, yeah, have a bunch of different things to talk about. So we'll dive right in. I'm here today with the Interstate Stream Commission Director, Hannah Risley-White. Do you want to add anything to the introduction?
Oh, well, just a big thank you for having us. Really appreciate your time this evening. We see the Water Authority as a critical partner, and we're looking forward to continuing the conversation about how we collectively support thriving communities in the Middle Valley. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start today with some information that Mr. Kelly was just showing you. We always like to start with drought conditions. So right now, the state is approximately 94% of the state is in some level of drought. And across the state, we're seeing really arid conditions. This is the worst drought conditions we've seen on record, actually. So the month of March was incredibly hot. This graphic just shows you throughout history the temperature we've seen since 1895. We've never seen anything like this at that time of year. So really, really hot conditions in the late winter, early spring led to the snowpack depleting really quickly. And this is just showing the watershed for the Rio Grande and highlighting the hydrograph from the Rio Grande headwaters. So the snow water equivalent was lower there than we've ever seen on record, especially after that hot March. We saw it drop down significantly. what we're seeing in most parts of the state is that the snowpack's already depleted and the rivers have already peaked. And we're hearing the same message from states around the West. The Colorado folks are experiencing the same thing, very early peaking of the water in the rivers, leading to expecting really low water in the rivers this summer. And what that means is, across the state, we're seeing really challenging conditions, significant implications to water users throughout the state. We, as an agency, work with water users to develop shortage sharing agreements. And what they're devised under is the Active Water Resources Management platform that allows us to find alternative forms of sharing between water users rather than strict priority administration. So we do this every year, but this year the sharing agreements are being enacted much earlier than usual. We're also very concerned about flooding and fire response and preparedness for that. So across the state, we're working closely with water users on that. We saw some significant events that last year, and that has significant impacts to our water systems as well, which we'll get into. Also, environmental compliance challenges, such as issues with the silvery minnow. And on the Rio Grande, conditions particularly concerning include low water deliveries to irrigators up and down the river. Last year, and again this year, we expect the same. The low allocations of Colorado River water imported through the San Juan Chama project are significant. Last year, we only received about 30% of the allocation, and this year it could be less. Still waiting to see. Also, we've had extensive drying of the Rio Grande and expect that to continue again this year. We're already seeing extensive drying, more than we usually would see by this time of year, and extremely low water levels at Elephant Butte. So this is an image of Elephant Butte at those low levels. We expect it to go down to very low levels again this year, which, all of these things have significant impacts to water users around the state for many purposes. We just like to highlight that visibility from our office because I think that's one of the roles that we serve, is to just give the bigger picture to the state and talk about what's happening out there. So I'm going to hand this over to. Oh, yeah, that's a good point. Just today, just in, the governor just issued an executive order, 2026-026. It's the declaring a drought and severe fire conditions throughout the state and urging municipal and county governments to impose water restrictions and firework bans. There was an EO for drought that went out last year. This one just came out today. Very good timing with this meeting. So what it's highlighting is we have a new drought resource out there. It's a new website it's drought.nm.gov. And this is really highlighting it's an area to go and find information on the drought conditions and also find connections to resources that are available for people throughout the state. And one of the clauses here really speaks to municipal water use, and it says, whereas to respond to the current and projected drought conditions, New Mexico's communities should increase local water education resources and implement water conservation measures within their authority to protect the available supplies of water, including but not limited to water use restrictions, removal of non-functional turf, and incentives for water-saving landscape approaches, high water efficiency appliances, and water recycling and reuse. And I think what we're going to be talking about today, we'll get into the governor's 50-year water action plan. We'll talk about the compact. I also want to come and congratulate Albuquerque for all the work that you've done, because all the things on this list are things that you are doing. So I'm very impressed by the work that's been done here, and we'll make sure to highlight that throughout the presentation, but just want to start with that, that this is a significant need in the state for everyone to find ways to save water. And I think a message that we can broadly share with everyone is, every person out there can do their part to save water where they can. And the drought is really touching all of us. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Director Wisely White to talk about some of the planning documents that we have.
Great, thank you. Yeah, we're going to tag team this presentation a lot and then welcome your questions. So what we're seeing currently, the conditions that the state engineer just outlined, could be indicative of a trend that we're anticipating across the West, which is increasing aridification. And I think you all know the state worked as the foundation of the governor's 50-year water action plan with the Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources back in 2022 to put out this, what we call the Leap Ahead report, Climate Change in New Mexico over the next 50 years, Impacts on Water Resources. And the big takeaway, probably you all have looked at this report or heard us talk about it before, but the big takeaway in that foundational document for the governor's 50-year water action plan is that we should anticipate 25% less water in our rivers and recharging our aquifers in 2070. We're seeing those conditions now, and so it doesn't surprise us. In fact, even some of what the state engineer just highlighted is that significant amount less water just in the last couple of years. And so that is the foundation for the planning work that we do. It presents a challenge in terms of meeting our compact deliveries, which I'll get into more shortly. And I think it also just begs the question for all of us, how do we work collaboratively to make do with less? And in that spirit, I also want to congratulate the Water Authority on the significant conservation efforts that you all have implemented over the last decade or more, and say that we at the state really see it as our role to help bolster and support those efforts and then help other communities across the state learn from those initiatives. We also feel like we're well positioned in a lot of ways to tackle the challenges that we're seeing given the work that's happened in the last 3 years. So not only was there that report in 2022, but we have the governor's 50-year water action plan, the 2023 state water plan, which was really pointed towards things that needed to be done related to climate change, and then the Water Policy and Infrastructure Task Force that former state engineer Mike Hammond convened. That's where Liz Anderson and I first really got to know each other. So there is a lot of consensus in the water community about the kinds of actions that need to happen in order to support us in taking on next steps. And I think this goes back to Liz. There you go.
Yeah, thank you. So just diving in on a little bit of detail, we're not going to get into too much detail on the governor's 50-year water action plan, but we did want to highlight some of the major areas of focus. The water conservation, new water supplies, and watershed protection are really the three buckets that we see all water things in the state fitting within. And so this breaks it down into to policies that people can get around, get behind, understand. I think she did a really good job of creating a document that people can grasp and that agencies can work collaboratively on to actually see come to fruition. So the first one here, A1, is develop a water education program. That's something that our agency is really working on. And and again, one of the best ways to get people to save water is to educate them about it. And I think the Water Authority's education program is a great model for how that's being done. There's a lot of great education happening around the state around water, and it's very exciting. Number two, A2, is incentivize agricultural water conservation. We're working very closely with agricultural users around the state to find ways to bring their systems, the water systems, into balance, because we realize that in a lot of cases, we are overusing water. We'll get into details on that. The Texas v. New Mexico settlement implementation is a great example of agricultural conservation, looking at really filling the gap of overpumping that's occurred in the Las Cruces area. But across the state, that is a big area of priority because agriculture uses about 75% of the water in the state. So it's the most important area for us to really zero in on and help find some balance to the system. Reducing leaks in drinking water infrastructure and increasing municipal conservation. Again, this is something the Water Authority's done an excellent job at, reducing the water leaks in the system, and cutting your municipal use in half on a per capita basis is really impressive. We all need to strive to do more, and I think that the example that you said is really excellent. Santa Fe has also done an excellent job of that, and we're working with municipal users around the state to increase that. Improving water storage and delivery systems. Albuquerque's helped with Abiquiu Lake and increasing the storage available in that reservoir. So that's a great example. Another one for water storage and delivery systems is aquifer storage and recovery, something we really want to encourage more of. And again, something that Albuquerque is doing an excellent job at. Under new water supplies, you asked the question about brackish water. there's an initiative, so B1 is develop treated brackish water. The last 2 years ago in the legislative session, we were able to create a strategic water supply fund that has since received $75 million in funding to explore brackish water supplies around the state and really promote the development of those supplies. It's a great water supply for things like economic development or drought reserves. So that's an area that we're really excited about, and I'm really excited that the progress that this governor has made to create that fund and actually get some projects going. We've already issued grants and contracts for 40 million of that, and the 35 million that we received this year, we're going out for contracts and grants again through an RFP process. Under B2, adopt policies to expand potable and non-potable water reuse. Again, something that you guys have done a lot of here in Albuquerque with the reuse systems. B3, improve groundwater mapping and monitoring. I think, we went and met with the TCAC before coming here. And some of the comments that we received from the TCAC were make sure to talk about all these different resources that are out there. And in particular, the importance of characterizing our aquifers around the state. There's a lot of work being done right now by the New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources to characterize aquifers around the state and better understand both the freshwater and the brackish water resources. So it's exciting to see all of that happening. It's been getting funding. It has a really strong voice behind it. I can't say enough for the importance of that mapping effort. Water and watershed protection, C1 cleanup, contaminated groundwater sites, the work that you're doing to clean up the bulk fuels site with Kirtland, significant effort there, and a number of other sites that you're working hard to clean up. So it takes advocacy and community to bring those projects to fruition. And Albuquerque does a good job at that. C2, develop a surface water discharge permitting program. That's something that's underway right now with NMED. We're pulling the primacy back into the state and no longer relying on EPA for those permits. So that's a rulemaking that's going to be happening this summer. C3, modernize wastewater treatment plants and stormwater infrastructure. I think stormwater infrastructure and figuring out what water we can capture and store through managed aquifer recharge is something that we're very interested in at the state. We're exploring that in areas where we don't impact the compacts, but we have this water available to capture and make use of. It's really a great source of water that we're exploring. And then C4 is protect and restore watersheds. You know, where the water comes from, our watersheds, it makes a huge difference. And the work that Albuquerque has done with the Rio Grande Water Fund and other agencies working really collaboratively, those big projects take a lot of groups working together to make them happen. So there's a lot of work still left to be done, but I think that this is just a broad overview of what's happening right now at the state. I also just wanted to dig in a little bit more on the aquifer storage and recovery. There's projects in Albuquerque, obviously. Rio Rancho has some projects, Las Vegas, but there's really very little of that happening around the state. And the point of this slide is we need more of that. So we're working hard to figure out what pieces need to come into place to make it more tangible and something that more places are doing. And Albuquerque is leading by example on that one. Just a basic overview of what we do. We are one agency with two leaders, and we have, so the Office of the State Engineer and the Interstate Stream Commission, we share a mission, and that's what joins us, is the protection of waters in the state. So, and please add into this wherever you'd like to. But at the Office of the State Engineer, we have a water rights division that manages the 7 district offices around the state. We have technical services that include abstracting, which is where we take the paper files and we move those into digital files and actually get the data into a database so we can administer from electronic records rather than trying to grab paper files. So we have a big team of people still doing that, still getting that data into our system so we can administer the rights. Hydrology does all the studies to look at the impacts of any kind of proposed water use on other water uses and water bodies, and make sure that it doesn't impair. And then statewide is a program that looks at our well drilling and make sure we actually within the agency, we're the ones that regulate well drillers and make sure that if a well is drilled, that it's drilled in compliance with the standards and protective of groundwater. We have a Water Use and Conservation Bureau that puts out a water use by categories report every 5 years and does our education program. And then we do dam safety. We're the agency that actually regulates jurisdictional dams in the state. And we have a hearings unit that oversees any kind of permit protests. And the litigation and adjudication program includes both an administrative litigation unit and a Pueblos, Tribes, and Nations group that is working on the Indian water rights settlements. That group is managed by Nat Chakaris, our general counsel. And so we're responsible for water rights and well drilling, and then the Interstate Stream Commission is really focused on investigating, protecting, and conserving and developing water of the state. And do you want to talk a little bit about your side of the
Yeah, sure. I mean, I think you all are familiar with what each of us do, but Interstate Stream Commission is not a regulatory body, so we work for a commission appointed by the governor with a primary mission of supporting New Mexico in complying with our 8 interstate compacts. However, our statutory authorities, as State Engineer Anderson just said, are pretty broad to investigate, conserve, develop, and protect New Mexico's waters. And so by statute, we're tasked with a number of other duties, including state and regional water planning, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later, supporting Indian water rights settlements and managing the Indian Water Rights Settlement Fund, managing New Mexico's Strategic Water Reserve, which provides the ability for the state to own or lease surface water flows for compactor species and now groundwater purposes, amongst other duties. We also have an acequia bureau that provides funding to acequias across the state. So we do a number of other things. Our mission in terms of supporting New Mexico in complying with compacts relies heavily on working very closely with Office of the State Engineer, because Water Rights Administration are a significant portion of that effort.
And I'm not going to go through this in very great detail, but I did want to just talk about some of the agency priorities here at OSE and ISE. And our focus has been, coming into these roles, really focusing on agency modernization, getting people in the field with the tools to administer water rights, which means more metering. We need to speed up our processes. We need to have more active water resources management projects where we actually have water users sharing and have sharing agreements that are actively in place. We're looking at implementing the Water Data Act and supporting our staff with resources that make them as efficient as possible. We also have a strong focus on the Rio Grande, realizing there's some significant challenges, which we'll get into with the compact. But we feel like the Lower Rio Grande settlement implementation for Texas v. New Mexico is a significant step ahead in getting us the tools that we need to improve the situation in the Lower Rio Grande in terms of groundwater pumping and sustainability of their aquifer. The river channel conveyance and improvements projects are something that Director Wisely White will get into a little bit, and ensuring continued compact compliance. So within the Rio Grande bucket, those are the 3 focus areas. We also are working on planning for New Mexico's water future, which is significantly tied to the governor's 50-year water action plan, regional planning, and progressing Indian water rights settlements and adjudications. And I just want to highlight, this year we were able to pass a bill, House Bill 111. It's the water theft maximum penalty bill. That it modernizes the fee structure for water theft and makes it a much more tangible, meaningful deterrent against water theft. It went from $100 per day that started ticking the day after a hearing officer found you guilty to up to $3,400 per day that starts ticking the day we hand you a notice of violation. So now, rather than people saying, oh, I'll wait till the hearings officer finds me guilty and then get a $100 penalty and I'll stop then, now they are encouraged to actually stop the water theft when we hand them that violation notice. I think it's going to have significant impacts on water administration in the state. We also have received funding for these other things, but we'll get into some more detail on some of these in future slides. They really align well with the priorities of the agency.
Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit about Rio Grande Compact status and efforts towards compliance. And I want to flag, State Engineer Anderson mentioned the settlement that could be approved by the court, US Supreme Court, as soon as next week. Most of the figures and content here has to do with compliance with the existing compact requiring deliveries to Elephant Butte Reservoir. All of what's in that compact remains. New Mexico will continue to have a delivery obligation to Elephant Butte. If the settlement is approved by the court, and we could come back and give a whole other presentation on that if that's something of interest to you all, New Mexico will have an additional delivery point at the state line, amongst other commitments in the Lower Rio Grande. So many people in New Mexico don't have any idea about compacts. And so we are coming to you with this presentation as part of an effort where we're just trying to educate much more broadly New Mexicans about compacts. And when you think about that figure of the United States that I showed earlier with New Mexico kind of in the bullseye of aridification, compacts are going to be more and more important, particularly in the West, as we face increasing water scarcity. And as I mentioned earlier, New Mexico is a party to 8 interstate compacts. Those compacts are how states divide rivers, waters between the states. You probably have heard in the news recently, there's a lot of discussion around Colorado River Basin issues. We are very significantly involved in those issues as well, as New Mexico, including San Juan Chama Project Water that serves the Water Authority, is part of that. The Rio Grande Compact is particularly important for New Mexico. And I think what many people don't realize is, with the exception of tribal water rights, a state's obligation, at least in the Rio Grande Compact, the state's obligation to deliver water to Texas trumps any other water right. So you can have the most senior water right, but if we're out of compliance with the compact, a federal court could act to say, New Mexico, you have to deliver under this compact. Again, with the exception of tribal water rights. New Mexico's status under the compact also determines whether or not we can store native Rio Grande water in upstream reservoirs. So even if we're in compliance under the compact as we are now, our current compact status makes it impossible for us to store water upstream, which presents management challenges for those who rely on that water, particularly, say, Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District. I'm sure you all have seen this figure that's our compact allocation chart, but just to walk you through it, sometimes people think that New Mexico owes a set amount every single year. No, that's not true. What we owe to Elephant Butte Reservoir, and to be clear, there are users in New Mexico that rely on that water below the reservoir as well. So our delivery obligation to Elephant Butte changes every year based on what comes into the system. So this chart shows on the x-axis represents the flow at the Ottawa gauge, USGS gauge, which I think everyone knows is near Espanola. And then based on how much water passes that gauge, it's allocated between what can be used in the Middle Valley and what must be delivered to Elephant Butte Reservoir. So the blue section is what can be used in the Middle Valley, the yellow is what we need to deliver. And what you'll notice, and what's important to flag in this chart, is once we reach about 405,000 acre feet in the Middle Valley, use in the Middle Valley is capped at that amount. So that means, if there's really high flows, often that's very challenging because we owe much more of that water. Also, I think it's important to flag on this figure, as we face increasing temperatures, that increases demand from crops and also demand from riparian vegetation along our river channel. So higher temperatures make it harder for us to get the water that's owed to Elephant Butte. This figure shows New Mexico's cumulative compact departures over time. And so you'll see our current, actually this doesn't account for the accounting that was just finalized last month, but our current accounting is 132,000 acre feet of debit. We picked up about 8,000 acre feet of debit last year, which was better than we had hoped given the very dry conditions. We expected that it could have been worse. But I think what stands out to me on this figure is if you look for the past decade or slightly more, New Mexico's accrued about 20,000 acre feet of debit every year. So that trend over the last decade is not a good one. And maybe I should have said first, we are in compliance under the compact as long as our debit does not exceed 200,000 acre feet. So the red line on the chart is the red line that we don't want to cross. We are now in debit, which creates problems with storage, as I mentioned earlier, but also means we're getting closer and closer now at 132,000 acre feet of debit to that 200,000 acre foot threshold. And that is part of what is prompting us to really double down at this state on thinking through what are the full range of solutions that we can implement to prevent us from hitting that red line. And all of the things that we talked about in the climate side slides make it difficult. So lower snowpack makes it more difficult, higher temperatures, increasing evapotranspiration, issues with river channel conveyance, vegetation management issues are all challenges in meeting our compact deliveries. I don't think people like to look for some single solution to these things. The solution is going to be many, many things in parallel. It's going to involve looking at the system holistically. It's going to involve identifying partners to implement solutions. It's going to be investing in infrastructure improvements to increase efficiency. It's going to be planning, really being thoughtful in how we're engaging our communities and planning. And it's going to require water rights administration, which is why things like increased enforcement capability at the Office of the State Engineer, the new statute that just passed with stronger teeth for them, and then additional funding for staffing they received this year are going to be really, really important in helping New Mexico meet our compact challenges. The next couple of slides all highlight some of the major initiatives underway at Interstate Stream Commission, and then State Engineer Anderson will talk about some of the stuff in her shop that are all aimed at sort of supporting communities and then also supporting New Mexico in maintaining compliance with the compact. At Interstate Stream Commission, we do a lot of work on the river channel itself or partnering with others on the river channel with the idea of how do we do better in terms of conveyance, but also habitat. How do we think through where each of those are most important and how are we investing them in the best way possible. We have critical partnerships that we can't do this alone, although the state can move a lot, but working very closely with the Bureau of Reclamation and the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers as significant partners in that effort. And then also working very closely with Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District. Interstate Stream Commission a few years ago entered into a cooperative agreement with MRGCD so that we could have a little bit more agility between the state and the district and moving projects in the river and in the bosque without the much more cumbersome and lengthy federal process that we're working on through our federal partners. So how do we push all of those in parallel? Over the last few legislative sessions, we've received $54 million in funding for those efforts, in support of those efforts, and $5 million in federal IRA funding. We also, again, working closely with Reclamation, are partnering on their Santa Casia Reach Improvements Project, which is a major realignment of the river channel just above Elephant Butte Reservoir. We see that as much needed. The federal government has allocated over $140 million for that effort, and we want to make sure that that funding gets on the ground with the most benefit to New Mexico as possible. We also have been working a lot in the Rio Chama on sediment management issues on the Rio Chama, and also appreciate the partnership with the Water Authority and the other San Juan Chama project contractors who share a concern in ensuring that water can move through the Chama expeditiously. We had a big sediment plug there in 2024 that we worked collectively to clear and are preparing to do that again if that were to occur. We also manage sediment at the top end of the Elephant Butte Reservoir, what we call the Delta Channel. As the water moves into the reservoir, sediment drops out. That creates an ongoing problem that involves needing to clear that sediment. And then also working with MRGCD on the low flow conveyance channel and maintenance of that channel, which currently serves as a drain from the district, but wasn't well connected to the river. So how do we have that as one of the tools in the toolbox? Also working to support and identify additional opportunities for voluntary demand reduction programs, so voluntary fallowing, say in MRGCD. And then lots and lots of planning for improved water management, including in our shop, data collection, data synthesis, modeling, development of additional management tools, engaging in planning efforts such as the Rio Grande Basin study that Reclamation is completing, and other depletions reductions programs through vegetation management, in addition to regional planning and some statewide planning efforts that I'll talk about more on a subsequent slide, which we see also as critical. And I'll hand back to you now.
Okay. This might be our last slide too.
Oh, do you take, so can I talk about
Yeah,
planning
go
now?
ahead.
Okay, great. All right, so I was thinking there was another slide on planning. So couple updates from our shop related to planning. I think you all know in the 2023 legislative session, the legislature passed unanimously the Water Security Planning Act. That was essentially a rewrite of New Mexico's regional water planning statute that originally passed in 1987. Many folks had seen that as largely having met its purpose. That rewrite of that regional water planning statute, we really saw as an opportunity for us to lead a process for us all to collectively re-envision regional water planning for New Mexico. I am very excited and optimistic about what may come out of that as something that can really identify solutions that can be most effective on the ground with local buy-in and investment. The statute calls on us to work with the regions to prioritize projects for funding. The legislature really wanted that in there. I spent much of my morning today talking with staff about how to direct regions to do that prioritization because we realize it will be difficult. But we also understand the legislature's interest in knowing where their money will be best invested for the best outcomes on the ground. Interstate Stream Commission finalized the rule, so promulgated and then finalized the rule earlier this year. We're currently working on the guidelines that complement that rule. The process by which we will finalize the framework for this future planning effort in the rule and guidelines all have had very significant and robust public and tribal engagement, including the statute called on us to convene a Water Security Tribal Advisory Council. That council has been very active with tribal participants from across the state in informing the rule and the upcoming guidelines. We're looking to begin convening those regions late this year and early next year, and very excited about what can come from that process. And then I should also flag for you all our state water planning effort in part is looking to build some compact education tools that will make compacts more understandable for the public and for our partners. As a state obligation to meet those compacts, it's our duty to help people understand them better. And so in the next couple of months, we will be launching one of those tools through our state water planning effort, and you'll be hearing more about that. So thank you.
Thank you.
And this
Sorry,
is
I
your
just
slide.
took
Yep.
your slide out.
Yep.
Okay, great. So this is our last slide. Thank you for bearing with us. I know this was a long presentation at the end of a meeting. But we wanted to share a couple more things with you regarding work that's underway in the Middle Rio Grande. The Middle Rio Grande Administrative Area guidelines are based on conjunctive use management. That means that in the Middle Rio Grande, a long time ago, we decided that surface water and groundwater are connected. And if there's groundwater pumping, then it has to repay the river with an offset for pumping. So in Albuquerque, every year there's an accounting that's done. Any kind of groundwater pumping that takes place within the city system, that water, they account for what the impact was on the river. And then they repay the river using either native water rights or San Juan Chama water. And so every year the Water Authority pays back the river, and they do it exactly when we ask them to. They do it at a time of year when we can move that water efficiently down into Elephant Butte and make sure that it gets there to pay the compact. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone here understands that the Water Authority, they pay the river for their pumping, they do it on time, and they deliver it when we ask them to. So they are completely in good standing with the compact. And as Director Risley White said, the compact is, we're in debit on the compact, but we aren't violating the compact. So I think those are just important things to understand, and it's all based within the way we administer water in the state, and in particularly under this conjunctive use management. The Middle Rio Grande Conservancy District is working on fallowing and shortage sharing programs. That's just looking at how to share the water in times of shortage, which is extremely challenging with water users. But we appreciate the partnership that we have with MRGCD. They're very good partners. We've been working with them closely on on a lot of strategies to try and improve the compact situation. We've been working with all the large water users, including the Water Authority and Santa Fe. Under enforcement and in compliance, we're really working on cracking down on illegal use of both groundwater and surface water, including pond compliance. So that's a big area of focus for us in the Middle Rio Grande. We are also going to be having a metering order in the Middle Rio Grande. There are still irrigation wells in the Middle Rio Grande that don't have meters, that wasn't established within their permit. So we're going to be issuing a metering order later this year to require meters on all of those wells. We're still looking at what everything that's entailed within that metering order, but we'll be coming out with more information. We can't administer water rights that we can't measure. So it's an important feature, and that's a big important step for the Middle Rio Grande, is getting those meters in place. In the Lower Rio Grande, we did a metering order about 20 years ago, and that's, you know, it's a progress. It takes time to put it in place and to get everyone on meters, but we're looking forward to doing that later this year. Also, continuation of adherence to policies in place, not allowing new supplemental wells to surface water is another area of focus. That's more on the irrigation well side, so I won't try and get into detail on that here. We're also working on an adjudication and/or active water resources management strategies for the Middle Rio Grande. The metering order is the first step. We have to be able to measure what's being used, and then after that, we can really focus more on administration. And we have great tools in place. I think one of the messages I want people to take away is that in New Mexico, we actually have excellent water management tools. We have conjunctive use. We have the active water resources management strategies that are available to us. Not all states can administer under alternative scenarios. Some states only allow administration under priority, but we're lucky to have that tool here. And we also have the Strategic Water Reserve. This is, and maybe actually, do you want to get into more detail on the Strategic Water Reserve? Okay, we won't get into a whole lot of detail. It's a tool that allows us to acquire water rights that can be used for compact compliance and environmental compliance. And recently, that authorization was expanded to include groundwater recharge projects and a fund that can be used to acquire funding that can have multi-year use, which is huge. So if you've heard of the San Juan lease that we've done with the Jicarilla Apache Nation and the Nature Conservancy, it's a great example of how we can acquire water that can be used to meet environmental compliance and offer an opportunity to support compacts. So that's on the Colorado River, but it's just an example, and it's something we're looking at using here too. It's a great resource for the state. And then the 6 Middle Rio Grande Pueblos water rights negotiation and settlement is something that will be very impactful in this area and very important for defining what the water rights are in the Middle Rio Grande. And we're working closely with the Pueblos to progress that settlement. And so with that, we'll stand for any questions. Again, thank you for having us. Did you want to say anything in closing?
No, just thank you so much for your time. We're happy to take questions or to come back to a subsequent meeting with more detailed presentations on anything we covered. Thank you.
Thank you. That's a lot of information. Really appreciate you both being here, and I want to open it up for questions. Councilor Lewis?
Thanks, Madam Chair. Thank you for taking the time. Thanks for the presentation. Very helpful. Madam Resident, who are the biggest culprits of water theft? Is it mainly irrigation type?
Honestly, I think the bigger driver was the oil patch. We see a lot of wells being used to provide water to the oil and gas industry that aren't permitted for that use, and it has big impacts in those parts of the state where people are over pumping wells, and that is impairing other people's water supplies. So that's a big area of focus. One aspect I didn't highlight with that legislation was that for a water right that is just being over diverted, let's say you have a sequía that's over diverted, or an irrigation right that's being over diverted, we don't start assessing fines against someone who is over diverted on a permit that's in compliance otherwise. We require that they take less water than next year. So that was an important protection that a lot of water users were very concerned about. And so that got incorporated into the bill. But we really appreciated working with the Water Authority and other water users on that bill. It was very important to gain the legislature's support, knowing that it was something supported by all elements within the water industry.
No, I think that's all. I was a little concerned I might be stealing water unknowingly. No, thank you, though. And then, do you all keep data on just, I mean, and I know I've seen some of this, but just the overall, like sectors that use the most, even broken down to whether it be industries or whether it be even by cities per capita, things like that. I mean, that just, largest water, I mean, and really the sectors or the areas that are using or depleting the most water, all the way down to, you guys keep that kind of data and
We do, yeah. There is a lot. There is I mentioned every 5 years we put out a water use by categories report, and that summarizes the data that we collect around the state for water use. We are looking at kind of optimizing that report and making sure that it answers all of those questions. But I think that we do capture most of that data and have a good understanding of generally where the water is being used.
And maybe I would just add, I'm very excited about what State Engineer Anderson brings to the agency in terms of modernizing. How do we make data more readily available for our purposes and for the public? And so our planning program is investing in a tool that could provide real-time data on water use from like evaporation from reservoirs or use from ag. We'd be able to link that to data from municipalities as well. So that would bring that 5-year report into more of like a real-time framework. And we're hoping to launch that in the next couple of years.
Well, that's helpful. And aside from, Madam Chair, weather changes and things like that can deplete and goes up and down. And but it's like, I guess, interested in the city. Like, I guess is there comparisons with like city by city and our usage, per capita, or different standards that you would use that would compare it. So I think, like, I might assume that Rio Rancho's a bigger culprit than Albuquerque, which I think they are. But anyways, but I mean, is there data that might prove some of that, or just how are we doing as a city, compared to other municipalities or even other outside of our state in that regard?
I think that the Water Authority is nationally recognized as being a leader in water conservation, and the gallon per capita per day metric that Mr. Kelly presented before, that's one way to measure between cities. It is difficult to use that metric between states because different states have different ways of measuring that or calculating that. But I think throughout New Mexico, everyone uses the same calculation. So that is one way to compare between cities.
And one more, what is the largest sector of water usage in the state?
Agriculture.
Yeah, okay. All right, thank you.
Commissioner Olivas?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a couple questions for you. Just first of all, thanks for being here, and always enjoy your presentations and how you mesh the two offices together so well. Heard you speak with LFC and some of those committees before, and you guys are pros. So the metering order in the Middle Rio Grande, you mentioned that only applies to irrigation wells. Does that apply to any other private wells, domestic wells, anything like that?
That's a great question. I'd love to talk more about domestic wells, but that's maybe an entirely different subject. The metering order, as we're conceiving it right now, I think we're going to focus on irrigation wells. The question of how broad does that get, I think, is yet to be determined, but we're still defining that boundary.
Okay, great. And I mean, yeah, just to that last question on the largest users and such, if we don't even have meters on it, I mean, we don't even know how large that user is. We're really just kind of estimating that. And does that metering apply in any way to the middle MRGCD?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, the metering right now, I might have to come back and give you more information on the metering order because I don't want to overstate. We're still working on the details of that, but yeah, maybe I can defer that to a future meeting.
Okay, great. Yeah, we'll follow up on that. And with the mapping work that you're doing, how much, roughly, how much money's been appropriated to that, and how much would you say is needed?
The mapping that I was talking about.
Yeah, the groundwater mapping, or the Stacy's mapping.
Oh, are you talking about aquifer mapping?
Yes.
Yes, so the Bureau of Geology and Mineral Resources, which is leading that effort, received 22 million this year in non-recurring funding to advance that effort, which we were very pleased to see. They've been getting just little chunks of money here and there, which doesn't go that far. So they are building out their program pretty quickly to do that mapping and to prioritize that effort statewide. And I'm sure they'd be happy to talk more with you all about that effort as well. But we were very pleased to see that funding for them, and are excited about how that information will inform the state's efforts and also will inform those future regions and decision making.
Okay,
And I think they did put together a plan, like a 10-year plan on how they could map all the aquifers in the state with a total dollar value that they're trying to acquire through the legislature and, funding mechanisms.
It'll take some recurring, like you can drill the well, but then there's long-term maintenance, right? So I think the state is going to have to invest probably not these huge chunks of money, but some amount on ongoing maintenance of that monitoring network.
And that dovetails into my next question about water planning funding. Can you speak to that at all? What's there? What do you think is needed for specifically the regional water planning effort?
Yeah, thank you so much. So we received in last year's legislative session an appropriation for $5 million, but for multiple purposes, for implementation of the governor's 50-year water action plan, advancing implementation of the Water Security Planning Act, so the new regional water planning effort, as well as advancing enhanced online information and engagement tools. We've been moving a whole slate of things in those three buckets. We are taking a work plan to our commission, Interstate Stream Commission, tomorrow for FY27, starting in July. Some of the funding, the $5 million we received last year, was reauthorized, so about half of that will be carrying over into next fiscal year, and then we received an additional $2.5 million this legislative session for that effort. It takes a bit to stand up a new process and to get the regions are newly delineated. So previously we had 16 planning regions, we now have 9 based on the new rule. Over the next 6 years, our plan is to stand up all of those 9 new regions, and that will take a big investment up front. But long term, I would love to see us get to a place where the state is allocating a certain chunk of money every year for the regions to allocate themselves to projects in their areas. So long term, and that's what Colorado does, it's something that really drives people to those Colorado planning processes, that they know that there'll be funding for that region to allocate to their priorities. So I think ultimately that's where we would like to get, so that the upfront investment from the state is to really stand up a process, but then down the road, the funding would be really heading towards the regions in terms of their priorities.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'll wrap it up here. So, yeah, I'd love to have further conversations with both of you on the water planning thing specifically. We've had some conversations in the Water Resources Board for Mr. Cog about that, and just looking at the size of that, just our region, and you have 6 others to worry about, is daunting to say the least. And there are so many diverse users, urban, very rural, northern, southern. I mean, you've got Santa Fe all the way to Socorro in one area, very divergent. So I just have some would love to pick your brain more about that offline, because it's gonna, I mean, it's one of those processes that I think could be very impactful to solve some of these problems, but also very challenging given just the size and breadth and scope and the need. The problem is significant. So I'm glad to hear you have some ideas, and looking forward to following up. But just appreciate both of you and all your work and what you're doing for our state and our most important resource. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. And I just have a couple of quick questions. Again, thank you so much, and I want to invite you to come back because this has been really educational. I really do appreciate the extensive, deep dive into this. No, we could go a lot deeper, but so I have just 2 quick questions. The Compact, the Rio Grande Compact education tools, I'm very interested in. We're talking right now about what the Water Utility Authority is doing to educate our community, and I think we do a really good job of that. At Bernalillo County, we're talking about doing more education in terms of water conservation. I always say, you know, the river's gonna go dry next week, probably, right? People are telling us, and don't let a good crisis go to waste kind of thing. This is when people start talking about, ooh, we need to be considering. So I just am very interested in what those look like, because I think it's a mystery to people what the Rio Grande Compact is. And so if you come up with those educational tools, I don't know what that looks like, or if you can expand on that, but we're really interested in participating in that with you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, we're really excited too, and we would love to launch the tool, as I said, in the next couple of months, but then collect some feedback on it, like what's working in it and what's not, and we'd love to use you all to do that if you're willing to do that. Okay. The tool essentially just explains what the compact is and why it's important. Yeah. It also, the chart that I had with our cumulative delivery, it's confusing for people. And so it helps clarify that visually, like graphically. And it has a number of different sort of slider bars where you can look at like our status over time on the compact status chart, but then also what we've had in storage in our reservoirs over time. So it has some interactive components to it. It explains about the commission, so the Rio Grande Compact Commission in the state of New Mexico by statute. The state engineer is New Mexico's compact commissioner, and how decisions get made by the commission related to the compact. But it's fairly high level so that it's accessible. It also spends a fair amount of time explaining terms, because the water people talk in a lot of terms that others don't understand. We're hoping through our state water planning effort to build similar tools for New Mexico's other compacts. We felt like it was important to start with the Rio Grande Compact because of our compact status. But we want to learn from this tool, improve it, and then build the tools in the Pecos and the Colorado basins next.
Good, thank you. And my just last real quick question, desalination and the brackish water, and I mean, my you know, very little knowledge about it, reading the Albuquerque Journal on my couch in the morning. You know, it's like they talk about that accessing that water is 2,000 feet down. I mean, and then it's not recharged, and how much money and what, I mean, how do we, that's a mystery to me. And I don't know that that's a solution, and I'm a little concerned about it, reading about other communities dealing with that. So.
Yeah, thank you for that question. It is confusing. The brackish water, it just defines the quality of the water, really. Anything that's over, I believe, 1,000 milligrams per liter total dissolved solids is considered brackish in the state. But we look at waters that are below the depth of about 2,000 feet as they sort of haven't been, what's the word? We haven't declared those basins. So they're available in a way that is different from the other waters of the state, and they tend to be brackish. We still, when someone wants to drill a deep well and retrieve brackish water, we're still going to look for impairment of other waters, other water rights, and we're going to look at offsets needed to repay surface water bodies from that pumping, and that's going to be part of any permit that goes out. I can get into more detail on the strategic water supply and that legislation. It changed a few things on how we look at brackish water in the state, but it also helps us to develop those resources and really encourage development of those resources. Treating brackish water is extremely expensive, like you said. The wells are very deep. The wells themselves are expensive. The treatment process is incredibly energy intensive. And then you have to get rid of the salts, right, which are typically in a liquid form. So you're either going to put it into an evaporation pond, or you're going to find a location where you can discharge it into the ground, someplace where it won't contaminate your water supplies, and where there's availability for it to go. So it's complicated. But I think it's the water resources are out there. There's a lot of brackish water that's not being used right now, and I think it's a great resource in the state. Part of this aquifer characterization that's needed to understand the water supplies in the state is really digging into what are those brackish water supplies that are out there. Let's quantify them, let's locate them, and let's figure out how we can use them to really support the water challenges we see here.
Thank you. I think I want to just continue that conversation, because
Yes.
it's also the question is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
I think it
The
depends on the
expense-
use.
The expense and then the ramifications and all of that, so.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a theoretical kind of question, I don't, for me,
The value of water.
yeah. Member Baldwin.
There we go. Thank you. Obviously, the Water Authority is, I mean, you complimented, and I think we've all seen really great results in terms of conservation efforts. And a lot of that is focused, understandably so, on residential users and even industrial users, how they reuse, you know, potable or non-potable water. But the ag user is a bit more of a mystery, I think, certainly to me and to average folks, about where are those results. Where are the best efforts, where are the best practices that are achieving the results, since ag is such a high percentage of water use right now? And where are you finding greatest success, not just necessarily geographically, but in terms of tools and efforts? And where can we incorporate that into the work that we're doing so that we continue to make good progress?
Sure, thank you for that question, Madam Chair. That is an excellent question. I think, you know, it's important to remember that for most farmers, water is what impacts most their bottom line. And so most of the farmers that we work with are highly efficient with what they have. I think what's challenging is trying to work on building systems where when you have less water, there's certainty as to how that scarcity then is shared, right? So I think that, you know, and what is the resilience from an economic standpoint from those communities with uncertainty in water supplies. And so a lot of the effort that's underway in the Lower Rio Grande has to do with, number one, reducing depletions, because probably we were using more from groundwater that for ag, but for general use in the Lower Rio Grande than we should have been. But then how do we, once we invest in those initial reductions in depletions, build in systems where when the water is available, it can be put to use to the benefit of our communities? And how, when it's not available, what is the certainty that users will know about what they will have so that they can plan ahead? And so in my mind, the investment is in those tools that help with sort of the shortage sharing community infrastructure, if you want to put it that way, of how to reduce use given more limited supplies. And as State Engineer Anderson said, last year and this year, ag communities up and down the Rio Grande have taken significant shortages. And so I think they're all realizing the need to build in programs like sort of dynamic fallowing, or this year we don't use as much because there's less. And how do we use within an irrigation district the more limited supply in a way that still brings benefit instead of spreading it so thin that you can't really get a good crop out of it. So those are the kinds of processes that we're working on exploring with those ag users. I should also say, as part of the governor's 50-year water action plan, State Engineer Anderson flagged recommendation A2 that has to do with ag conservation. That resulted in a grant program being run through NMSU for conservation investments for farmers. That program went very well, and they got additional funding this legislative session. I don't know how much that is, but to support farmers in installing on-farm increased efficiency in the systems that they have. And I think we'll be continuing to invest in that at the state level as well. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Board.
Yeah, thank you for having us.
I believe that the meeting is adjourned. We're all done. Thank you so much.
Hey, how are you doing? It's good to see you.